Chapter 6, The Law of Attraction. What I have appreciated and loved most about this journey is my deepening understanding of the powerful law of attraction. I've really come to a profound level of awareness of my own power when it comes to creating my reality, and I'm on a mission to share this with you so you can experience the magic for yourself. Now, the law of attraction, in simple terms, is a governing law that states that we are living in a vibrational universe and that like attracts like. Every thought has a measurable frequency, a vibration that goes out into the universe. That vibration attracts other thoughts, it attracts experiences, situations, circumstances, other people that are a match to that frequency. You've heard the sayings, what you focus on expands, where your attention goes, energy flows, what you think about, you bring about. Well, they're all true. Therefore, it's important to train your thoughts and focus positively on what you want. You're never not thinking. So research shows that we have in excess of 60,000 thoughts per day. So it's going to be impossible to monitor and manage our thoughts moment to moment. To add to this challenge is the fact that 95% of our thought processes are at the level of the subconscious. We're not entirely aware of what's going on under the bonnet, so to speak, because we're just running along conditional habits of thought. Our beliefs, for example, are just habitual ways of thinking that have become ingrained within us. Fortunately, we have an internal guidance system, an inbuilt navigation system that tells us where we're heading with our thinking without us having to try to control our thoughts in every single moment. And of course, this clever internal guidance system is how we feel. So when you feel bad, sad, angry, frustrated, overwhelmed, ashamed, you are off track, engaged in some stinking thinking and heading off down the nearest negative rabbit hole. You are emitting a low vibration frequency that will attract more of the same. That is, more to feel sad, angry, frustrated, overwhelmed, and ashamed about. But when you feel good, joyful, satisfied, content, peaceful, purposeful, passionate, you're going to attract more of the same. The conclusion, you've got to practice feeling good more of the time. Now, back in 2014, when I started my personal development journey, after my life had completely unraveled following my marriage breakdown, I came across Rhonda Byrne's film, The Secret, which is all about the law of attraction. Now, I absolutely loved it. It spoke straight to my heart, and I watched it and listened to it on repeat. I wanted to flood every cell in my body with this knowledge. Now, looking back, I just hoped so much to become a master at creating my own reality, but there was a lot of doubt in the simplicity of it all. Now I realize that its power lies in its simplicity. Now, don't get me wrong, The Secret is full of gaping holes and leaves so many questions unanswered. And I actually hope to plug those holes for you throughout this book. But at a basic level, it provides a really sound starting point. So when you feel good, anything that is not on the same positive feel-good vibrational frequency just falls under your radar and you don't notice it. Or you do notice it, but you just don't dwell on it. It kind of bounces off you. So, quick story. I remember Mum and I went to Japan when I was 18 years old. My mum is Japanese, so we were visiting her birthplace and the home of one half of my ancestry. So at the time, I was living in Bradford as a student and Mum lived in London. We had a wonderful trip. Everyone was falling over themselves to make us comfortable. I met members of my family that I'd never met before, and the hospitality, Japanese hospitality, is out of this world. Every day we smiled, we laughed, and the sights, sounds, and smells seemed strangely familiar to me. It was Christmas time and the winter sun was bright, and where there was snow, everything glimmered and glistened. It was so joyful. After 2 glorious weeks, we flew back into London and Mum and I said our tearful goodbyes and I returned to Bradford. I felt so sad because I didn't want to leave Japan and I missed my mum so much. We were very close and we laugh all the time when we're together. So, over the course of the next few days, I felt really low and I started criticizing everything. My attention seemed to attach to things that I hadn't noticed before. The faults and state of disrepair in the student digs seemed to leap out at me and really annoy me. I got frustrated by the mess of my housemates that previously didn't bother me, and the grey January drizzle felt heavier than ever before. After a few days, I dragged myself to the shops in Bradford city centre and met with the rudest shop assistant imaginable. Oh my God, she was so rude. Then in the next shop, I realised at the checkout that I'd dropped and lost the £10 note that was in my pocket. Unbelievable. I wanted to cry. I felt so embittered that I went to the nearest payphone, remember them, and rang my mum and I declared, I hate it here. When the January term lectures restarted and everyone returned from the holidays in high spirits, my mood lifted and I started to feel happy again. Suddenly I stopped being bothered by the crappy state of the student accommodation or the mess of my housemates. It all just disappeared into the background and was no longer a part of my reality. I never saw that rude shop assistant again, even though I was a frequent shopper in that particular store. And I received a gift of money from my mum out of the blue with a note that read, treat yourself to something nice to cheer you up. I felt low for a few days and it really shaped my perspective of my reality and the experiences I manifested. And so here's the thing, that low mood was only temporary. But what if I'd stubbornly held it there for longer? I had experiences that matched my I don't want to be here thoughts. My loyal and obedient brain noticed everything that backed up my thought, like the states of disrepair and the mess in the student house and the grey, drizzly weather. And my low frequency attracted experiences to match in the form of a rude shop assistant and the lost money. If I held those thoughts for longer, it would become a belief, and I'd probably wind up depressed. A belief is just a habit of thought, but as a belief takes hold, it gathers momentum. The belief gets stronger and becomes a dominant vibration because the law of attraction will continually produce evidence that reinforces the belief, and so we get stuck. Whenever I thought about my debt, I was attracting more debt. Even when I was thinking in terms of not wanting this debt and wishing I was debt-free, I was still focusing on debt. That makes sense, right? But what about when I wasn't thinking about my debt? When I looked at my credit card statements, my thoughts were so negative that I felt ashamed and out of control. That was my dominant vibration for so long that it became who I was. I was self-identifying as somebody who was out of control, which is where the movie The Secret falls short. You see, you don't just get what you think about, you get what you are. My dominant vibration of shame and guilt brought me more of the same without my conscious awareness. And as I surveyed more of the same, I attracted more of the same, and on it went until the blessed day of my decision. Making significant changes in your life experience requires changing your habits of thought and rewriting your stories, thereby changing your state of being, who and what you are. In order to change your habits of thought and rewrite your stories, you must start by changing your focus. As simple as it sounds, it really does start here. So instead of focusing on lack and scarcity, focus on and affirm abundance and prosperity. Instead of focusing on sadness, focus on and affirm joy. Instead of focusing on impatience, focus on and affirm appreciation. Instead of focusing on powerlessness, focus on and affirm empowerment. Instead of focusing on confusion, focus on and affirm clarity. Instead of focusing on stuck or inertia, focus on and affirm creativity and productivity. Instead of focusing on tired, focus on and affirm vitality. Instead of focusing on hustle, hard work, and grind, focus on and affirm more fun and play. You have a choice moment to moment to direct your focus and start noticing the evidence of your new desires and your new story. This is not a one and done activity. This requires daily attention. You must create a new discipline of getting your mental track shoes on and going to the spiritual gym every single day. Next journal excerpt. Journal excerpt day 3. When I look at my bank balance and it's a negative minus figure, I feel bad. Who wants to feel bad, right? Those bad feelings are indicative of my negative associations with debt. What does it say about me? It says I'm out of control, I'm unable to manage myself, I'm undisciplined and disorganized. Wow, no wonder I've avoided going there. I need to rewire my thinking to shift these thoughts. If I'm running around with these beliefs, then I'll never be able to take the action to clear the debt. And the longer I stay in debt, the more I'll perpetuate these beliefs. So, as from today, I'm setting a daily reminder on my phone to check my bank balance. My bank balance is overdrawn and I can't remember the last time it went into a credit position. However, when I look at the balance every day, here's what I'm going to do. I will consider 3 other areas in my life where I am abundant. I will do this for at least 21 days, the time it takes to replace an old habit with a new habit. The intention behind this is to build my positive associations when I look at my bank balance, and also I will be taking control and disproving my I'm undisciplined belief because I'll be doing it every day. End of journal excerpt. The practice I described is what Reverend Michael Beckwith calls the practice of spiritual shape-shifting, and it works. The idea is that you raise your vibration to one of abundance, love, gratitude, and joy by focusing on an area of your life that evokes those feelings within you. Perhaps you feel it when you think about your loved ones or some accomplishment that you're really proud of, or when you think about your pets that you love so much. As you allow yourself to be flooded with these feel-good feelings and your frequency raises, you then look upon your bank balance or your credit card statements. Hold the good feeling as you study your finances for as long as you can. If the good feelings diminish, then repeat the exercise. Come back to focusing on that area of your life that raises your vibration until you feel it flooding back in again. Then look at your finances. That's spiritual shape-shifting. Before long, your brain begins to carve out a new association between feeling abundant and joyful and loving and your finances. As that occurs, you begin to see the state of your finances shifting to become more of a match to abundance, joy, and love. So I love the analogy of your brain being like the Google search engine, or any search engine. When you type a question into the search engine, it will source the database of information and deliver answers that are a match to your question. I know it's just going off keywords, but for the sake of the analogy, just play with me here because it serves us well. Whatever you ask of your brain, it will also source the database of information from memories, stored knowledge and experiences and bring you answers that are a match and therefore answers your question. Ask a disempowering question like, why can't I get my finances sorted? And your brain will obedient bring back equally debilitating answers, such as, because you're useless with money and always have been. Because your parents never showed you how to manage your money, so what do you expect? Because it's a left brain activity and you're a right brain creative, so let it go. What is also wrong with most disempowering questions, which generally start with the word why and are mostly spoken with a lamenting, whiny tone of voice, is that they fall into a category called presuppositions. The question presupposes a state of being that adds to the hopelessness. Why can't I get my finances sorted? Presupposes that you can't get your finances sorted. instantly unhelpful and extremely debilitating. Your brain will answer every question you ask. So start asking questions that you actually want answers to. For example, how can I start to manage my finances better and make the process fun? One of my clients in the Paid in Full and Prospering Academy asked herself this question and wound up making a weekly date with money. She went from paralysis and intense anxiety around the state of her finances, and thus never sorting it out, to loving and lovingly managing her money. What she did each week was set time aside specifically to go through her accounts and her statements, and she made it special by lighting scented candles, playing beautiful soft music, having a glass of wine as she did it. Talk about creating new neural associations. Another key point about asking empowering questions is not only do you tap into the database of your own human experience and wisdom, but you tap into another field of intelligence too. The universe, by law, will answer every question you ask it. Nothing is off limits. Now, before you think I've lost my mind, I know that you've received answers from infinite intelligence before, from the field. Perhaps you didn't recognize it at the time for what it was, but you've certainly experienced it. Anytime you've had an inspired idea seemingly out of nowhere, that's the field. That's infinite intelligence. Anytime you've been rushing out the door in a frenzy of lateness to get to the airport and suddenly an image flashes in your mind, passport, fuck! You're then fumbling with your keys in the lock to rush back into the house to grab your passport that you perched on your dresser last night so you wouldn't forget it. That flashed image was from infinite intelligence, from the field. Anytime you've developed a hunch about something, when you just know, in spite of a total lack of logical explanation, and it turned out to be true, that's the field. That's infinite intelligence. So coming back to your questions, how do you receive your answers more consciously and deliberately? By being open, vigilant, and receptive. Notice and acknowledge those intuitive hunches and nudges. Pay attention when you're feeling drawn to something new or you feel called to do something that maybe doesn't make logical sense in the moment. Watch out for synchronicities and signs that reinforce a specific way of thinking that perhaps you've been putting off or trying to ignore. Spend time in silent inquiry, introspection, and reflection. In fact, as I sit here typing this very sentence, except I'm reading it out to you now, I should have been working on another project that makes more logical sense in view of my next level income goals. However, for a few weeks now, I've been receiving impulses to get this second edition book written. I tried to park the idea for the time being in order to make space for my more pressing project, but I wasn't making progress on the project because my heart and mind was here with you and this second edition book. I then started getting stronger messages from the field, from infinite intelligence. Examples such as, I was interviewed on a podcast a few weeks back, and while off air, the host and I chatted about my debt story and my paid in full journey. A few days later, the same lady emailed me to say that after we spoke, she downloaded Paid in Full on her Kindle and was already halfway through. She wrote, and I quote, "I couldn't believe that you put into words everything that I have felt and struggled with for years." I was deeply touched, but also reminded of the very real struggle that people are experiencing every day when burdened with debt. The very next day, a guy messaged me to discuss networking opportunities. We jumped on a call, and he admitted that the real reason he wanted to speak to me was because he had debt, and he wondered if he'd be a good fit for my academy. I had a huge lump in my throat as he shared his story, and I felt reconnected to the importance of sharing this message. And then just yesterday, one of my Paid in Full and Prospering Academy clients private messaged me to express gratitude because she's gone from £60,000 in debt to 29,995, and she was celebrating seeing a 2 next to the pound sign instead of a 3 or a 4 or a 5 or a 6. She had passed the halfway mark. Now, I recognize that all of these were signs to answer the call of my heart and come back to this book and the message that I feel so compelled to share. So, in short, ask empowering questions and remain completely open, vigilant, and receptive to the answers that come. And of course, follow the impulses, the hunches, and the intuitive hits. They may have no basis in logic, but that's because they come from the field. They come from infinite intelligence.